Me now from the St. Pete Times, Steve Persall, and also TampaBay.com, correct?
TampaBay.com, St. Pete Times, wherever you want me, you can find me.
And what we're going to be talking about is your top 10 best films of 2010.
Yeah.
The films we should see.
There are about 250 movies that came out. These are the 10 that really got me the most.
Which one do you want to start talking about first?
Let's start at the bottom. Inside Job, great documentary. You know, if you ever want to know where the money went with the economic meltdown 2008, Charles Ferguson explains it all to you in a great documentary and does it in a way that's entertaining.
Rabbit Hole,
Nicole Kidman, Aaron Eckhart. Wonderful story of loss. Their child is killed in an auto accident, and it shows that kind of stuff. This could be one of those crying, jag, yelling, screaming types of things, but I like the way it so quietly deals with that kind of loss and grief.
Alice in Wonderland, I was worried about when it first came out, but when I actually saw Alice in Wonderland, it was thoroughly entertaining.
This came out in March, I believe it was. But it stuck with me all year long. When I went back to see it again, I was just as enthralled with it.
This movie, I walked in with a bit of hesitation. I love you, Philip Morris, but I left that movie loving that movie. I think Jim Carrey and Ewan McGregor did a great job in this movie.
It's an amazing comedy, my favorite comedy of the year, and really one of my favorite love stories of the year, too, because they do end up falling in love in prison, and it's an absolutely true story.
I think Jim Carrey did an excellent job, and it really was kind of a stretch.
It's one that's flying under the radar. I don't think you're going to see it in the awards season stuff coming up too much, but it's one that I think will last for a while.
Okay, 127 hours.
127 hours. James Franco, one of the year's best performances, playing Aaron Ralston, the guy who was trapped in a canyon, had to cut off his arm to escape. It's one of 5 movies on my list here that are based on true stories, which is unusual for me.
Blue Valentine.
Blue Valentine, opening mid-January. Michelle Williams and Ryan Gosling, and a really scathing, searing story of love blooming and wilting.
Toy Story 3, the Toy Stories are always
Who knows? Who doesn't know about Toy Story 3? In my opinion, the best trilogy ever in movies. You can talk about Godfather, you can talk about Lord of the Rings, you can talk about any of those things that were just limited to 3 movies trying to tell a story. Toy Story tops them all.
Now, the only one on your list that I didn't like, because I think it just puts me off every time I think about it, The Social Network. That whole social media thing I don't like. So.
I'm an anti-social networker myself. But Mark Zuckerberg, whether this story gets his personality, his life right or wrong, I think it's a captivating story of the American dream just coming to fruition.
It made me feel uncomfortable the whole movie, and I just did not like this movie. But maybe that's the sign of a good movie.
That's it. Sometimes the best movies don't allow you to walk out just whistling a happy tune.
Exactly. Hey, this one I loved, Winter's Bone. I found this movie like you were drawn into this family's life. And then you walked away from that family understanding the tragedy that they went through. I love this movie.
I've been talking about this movie and talking it up since July when it came out. Very small movie, didn't get much of a release. But Jennifer Lawrence as the young girl who's trying to find her father in this backwoods area that has all these meth labs and family skeletons rattling around, this kind of stuff. I think it's the kind of story that Stephen King wishes he could have written.
Your last one, the number one for you is what?
The King's Speech. I saw The King's Speech in Labor Day weekend at the Telluride Film Festival, walked out and just looked at a total stranger, and I said, now that's a movie. Right there. It just automatically had that kind of reach for me. I've had friends of mine who have watched the screener DVD who are not the kinds of people who would like British historical epics and stuff, but they walked away saying, man, that thing is terrific. It's funny. It's witty. Colin Firth is going to be the best actor of the year for playing King George, who had this big stammer. He takes over the crown at the beginning of World War II. He's got to give his country a voice, and he stutters. So it's a true story, but it's also just so elegantly written and performed.
You did a fine job with this list,
and I might get a gold star for the list.
I can't wait to actually watch The King's Speech.
Good job.
Steve Persall, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Happy New Year.
See the whole list again. Take a look at it. St. Pete Times, TampaBay.com. And right after the break, a Gator gets his just